You know how some pieces of music just completely worm their way into our memories? And they become almost like a shared experience, like instantly recognizable, evoking a specific feeling or a certain time of year.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Tchaikovsky's Nutcracker is definitely one of those pieces.
Absolutely.
It's pretty much become synonymous with the holidays.
Yeah.
But what's fascinating is that this ballet that we now associate with, Sugar Plum Fairies and Childhood Dreams was actually a total flop when it first premiered.
It's true. The premiere, critically speaking, was a bit of a disaster.
So how did it go from like a critical dud to this global holiday tradition?
All right.
That's what we're going to be diving into today.
Yeah.
Using a podcast episode that we found.
Yeah.
We're going to unpack the story behind the Nutcracker, explore the music, and try to understand its evolution from flop to, festive icon.
And to understand the Nutcracker, we kind of need to understand its creator, Pyotr Ilyich Tchaikovsky, and the world that he lived in. So imagine Russia in the late 19th century. Tchaikovsky was already a musical superstar.
Wow.
He was known for his very emotionally powerful melodies.
So he was kind of like the Beyoncé of his day.
Exactly. And ballet was the major entertainment in Russia, especially in St. Petersburg.
Oh, wow.
So think of it as like the equivalent of blockbuster movies today.
Gotcha. So Tchaikovsky was writing for a huge and discerning audience.
Yeah.
No pressure there.
No pressure at all.
But where did the story of the Nutcracker come from? Wasn't there a book involved?
Yes. It's based on a story called The Nutcracker and the Mouse King by E.T.A. Hoffman.
Okay.
Now, Hoffman's version is, it's pretty dark.
Really?
Yeah. It's full of, those gothic, fantastical elements, typical of the Romantic era, not exactly the warm and fuzzy Christmas vibes we get from the ballet.
Yeah, not exactly something you'd want to take your kids to.
Okay.
So how did it get transformed into the family-friendly story that we know today?
Well, it was Alexandre Dumas, yes, the Three Musketeers guy. He adapted the story into a lighter, more child-appropriate version, and it was Dumas' version that directly inspired the ballet.
Wow. Talk about a plot twist.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got this superstar composer working with a beloved story adapted by another literary giant. You'd think it would be a recipe for success.
You would think.
But you mentioned the premiere was a disaster. What went wrong?
Well, a few things. Firstly, there was the choreographer, Marius Petipa.
Okay.
He was known for his very specific, detailed style, and he gave Tchaikovsky incredibly precise instructions for the music.
So that must have been frustrating for a creative genius like Tchaikovsky. Did that stifle his process at all?
Absolutely. And Tchaikovsky was also going through a difficult time personally, dealing with loss and depression.
Oh, wow.
Not exactly the ideal headspace for composing a lighthearted, whimsical ballet.
It's amazing he was able to create anything at all under those circumstances.
Right.
But I've always been curious about those really distinctive sounds in the Nutcracker.
Yeah.
Especially in the Dance of the Sugar Plum Fairy.
Yeah.
What is that tinkly, magical-sounding instrument?
That's the celesta.
The celesta, okay.
Yeah. Tchaikovsky actually discovered it during his travels and fell in love with its unique sound.
Okay.
And using it in the Nutcracker was a groundbreaking move.
It's perfect for creating that ethereal, otherworldly atmosphere. It makes you feel like you're actually in the land of sweets.
Yeah.
Didn't he do something unusual with voices, too?
Yes. He incorporated a children's choir in the Waltz of the Snowflakes. This wasn't typical for ballets at the time.
So he was really pushing boundaries with the music, even though he was, constrained by the choreographer's demands.
Exactly. He was innovating even within those limitations. But unfortunately, all those efforts didn't translate into a successful premiere.
Tell me everything. What happened?
Well, the premiere, held at the Mariinsky Theater in St. Petersburg in December of 1892, was met with very harsh criticism. The choreography was considered weak, and the story, despite Dumas's adaptation, was still complex and hard to follow in ballet form.
So even with a lighter story, it was still too abstract for audiences. What about the dancing?
Well, using child dancers for Clara and the Prince, while fitting thematically, limited the technical aspects of the performance. Plus, even the special effects, which were supposed to wow the audience, kind of fell flat.
Wow, a triple whammy. So it sounds like the whole production just didn't come together. But if the critics hated it, how did the music survive? How did it become, such a cultural phenomenon?
Well, that's where things get interesting.
Okay.
You see, even before the ballet premiered, Tchaikovsky had created a separate suite of music from the score.
Oh, so he was smart enough to have a backup plan.
Exactly. He created the Nutcracker suite, a collection of 8 pieces from the ballet, specifically for concert halls.
Okay.
And this suite became a smash hit.
Oh.
It gave audiences a taste of the Nutcracker magic without the baggage of the failed stage production.
So the music itself was already winning hearts, even if the ballet was tanking.
Yeah.
But what about the rest of the world? Did the Nutcracker catch on outside of Russia?
Not right away. There were a few early performances in England and the U.S., but nothing major. It wasn't until the mid-20th century that the Nutcracker really conquered the West, thanks to a choreographer named George Balanchine.
I've heard of him. He's a huge name in ballet, right?
Yeah.
What did he do that was so different?
Well, Balanchine had a deep connection to the Nutcracker. He actually danced in it as a child in Russia.
Wow.
So he understood the ballet in a way that others might not have.
Right.
And in 1954, he created a production for the New York City Ballet that completely changed the game.
What did he do differently?
Well, he focused on the magic and wonder of the story,
Okay.
amped up the technical difficulty of the dancing, and crucially, turned it into an annual holiday event.
Ah. So that's when it really became entrenched as a Christmas tradition.
Yes. Balanchine's production helped the Nutcracker conquer the West and set the stage for the global phenomenon we know today. But the question remains, what is it about this music, this story, that has made it so incredibly enduring? Why do people keep coming back to it year after year, generation after generation?
That's the million-dollar question.
Yeah.
It's like there's something about it that just speaks to something deep within us.
Definitely.
But before we get into all of that,
Yeah.
I think it's time to dive deeper into the music itself.
Right.
What makes Tchaikovsky's score so captivating?
Well, let's get into that. What's fascinating is how Tchaikovsky was able to capture so many different moods and emotions in the music.
Yeah.
You have like the grandeur of the waltzes,
Right.
the delicate beauty of the Dance of the Sugar Plum Fairy, the exotic feel of the Arabian dance,
Yeah.
the energy of the Russian trepak.
It's like a musical journey around the world. I remember the first time I saw the Nutcracker as a kid, I was just mesmerized by all the different styles of music.
Right.
It was like each dance was telling its own little story.
Exactly. And Tchaikovsky blended it all seamlessly,
Yeah.
weaving together these diverse musical threads
Yeah.
to create this tapestry of sound that's both captivating and cohesive. He even incorporated folk melodies and dance rhythms, giving the score a truly authentic feel.
And it's not just about the variety of styles.
Right.
There's also like this incredible emotional depth to the music.
Yes.
It's not all just, sparkle and spectacle.
Yeah.
There are moments of real tenderness, poignancy too.
Absolutely. Take the grandfather dance, for example.
Yeah.
It's so heartwarming, so full of nostalgia. Or the pas de deux between the Sugar Plum Fairy and her cavalier.
Right.
It has this beautiful, almost melancholic quality to it.
Yes, it's that balance, isn't it? The light and the shade, the spectacle and the emotion that make the score so captivating. But even a classic like the Nutcracker can't escape the scrutiny of modern times.
Right.
We talked earlier about how some of the ethnic dances have been criticized for perpetuating stereotypes.
That's right. In recent years, there's been increased awareness and sensitivity to the potential for those dances to perpetuate harmful representations of non-Western cultures.
Which makes sense. These portrayals often stem from a colonialist past where non-Western cultures were frequently depicted through an exoticized and often inaccurate lens.
Exactly. It's crucial to acknowledge that historical context and approach those representations with a more informed and sensitive perspective.
And thankfully, it seems like many ballet companies are doing just that.
Yes. They're engaging with cultural consultants,
Okay.
revising choreography, updating costumes, and being more mindful of casting choices.
Right.
It's encouraging to see that kind of responsiveness and a commitment to creating a more inclusive and respectful experience for all audiences.
Absolutely. It's a reminder that even beloved classics like the Nutcracker can and should evolve with the times.
Precisely. It's not about, erasing the past.
Right.
Or censoring the ballet. It's about approaching it with a contemporary understanding of cultural sensitivity, ensuring that it remains a source of joy and wonder for everyone.
Well said. Okay, so we've talked about the history, the music, the cultural impact. But I want to go back to the question of why the Nutcracker has become such a global phenomenon.
Right.
Why do you think it endures even with, all of its complexities?
That's the big question, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I think it's a combination of factors.
Okay.
First, there's the power of Tchaikovsky's music.
Mm-hmm.
Those melodies are incredibly catchy.
Yes.
And evocative, transporting us to a world of dreams and imagination.
It's true. You hear those melodies and you're instantly transported back to childhood, to that feeling of wonder and excitement.
Exactly. And then there's the timing. The Christmas setting makes it a natural fit for the holiday season. It's become a tradition for families to go see the Nutcracker together.
Yeah.
Creating those shared memories and experiences.
I remember going to see the Nutcracker every year with my family.
Oh.
It was such a special tradition.
And for many people, it's become a ritual,
Right.
a way of marking the start of the holiday season.
But I think it goes beyond just nostalgia and tradition.
Yeah.
There's something about the story itself,
Right.
The journey from childhood innocence to the awakening of imagination that resonates with people of all ages across cultures.
I completely agree. It's a timeless story,
Mm-hmm.
a reminder of the power of dreams and the magic that can be found in the everyday world.
Makes you wonder if part of the appeal is that it allows us to tap into that childlike sense of wonder again, even if just for a couple of hours.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
And let's not forget the visual spectacle.
Right.
The costumes, the sets, the dancing.
Mm.
It's a feast for the senses.
Yes. It's a truly immersive experience.
It is.
But speaking of different experiences, we've talked a lot about the traditional ballet.
Right.
But there's a whole world of Nutcracker adaptations out there.
There is.
Everything from hip-hop versions to productions that incorporate elements from other cultures.
That's right. And I think this willingness to experiment, to push the boundaries of the traditional ballet is part of what keeps the Nutcracker relevant and exciting for modern audiences.
It's like it's constantly being reborn, finding new ways to connect with each generation. What do you think drives this constant reinvention?
Well, I think it speaks to the universality of its themes.
Okay.
Whether it's told through classical ballet, hip-hop, or some other art form entirely, the core story of the Nutcracker, the journey from childhood innocence to the awakening of imagination, continues to resonate. It's a story that transcends cultural boundaries and speaks to something deep within us.
Absolutely. And it's not just the story. Tchaikovsky's score is so adaptable. You can hear it reimagined in so many different styles, and it always seems to work.
It's like the music itself is a magical portal that can transport us to different worlds, different emotions, different experiences.
And that brings us back to the heart of it all, doesn't it?
Yeah.
The enduring magic of the Nutcracker.
It really does.
It's not just a ballet. It's an invitation to dream, to imagine, to experience the world through the eyes of a child. And that's something that will never go out of style.
Beautifully said. It's a story that continues to unfold, a work of art that is constantly evolving and reinventing itself.
It makes you wonder what the next chapter in the Nutcracker saga will hold, what new interpretations and adaptations will emerge.
It does, and that's part of the fun, isn't it? The story isn't over yet.
Right.
There are still so many possibilities to explore, so many new ways to experience the magic of the Nutcracker, and that's what makes it so exciting.
Right.
It's not a static relic of the past. It's a living, breathing work of art that continues to inspire and captivate audiences in new and unexpected ways.
And on that note, it feels like we've only just scratched the surface of the Nutcracker.
Yeah.
There's so many layers to this ballet: the history, the music, the cultural impact, the endless possibilities for reinvention.
It's true. It's a work of art that keeps on giving. Every time you revisit it, you discover something new.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into the Nutcracker, what's the one thing you hope our listeners take away from this conversation? What's the big aha moment?
That's a great question. I think the biggest takeaway is that the Nutcracker, despite its initial failure and its sometimes problematic history, is ultimately a story about the power of imagination and the enduring magic of art. It's a story that can be told and retold in endless ways, and it continues to resonate with audiences because it speaks to something universal within us.
It's a reminder that art can transcend time and cultural boundaries.
Exactly. And it's a reminder that art is a living, breathing thing that can evolve and adapt with the times.
Speaking of adapting, it's fascinating to see how the Nutcracker continues to be, reimagined in so many different ways.
Right.
We've talked about some of the modern adaptations, but what do you think the future holds for this iconic ballet?
It's exciting to think about, isn't it?
Yeah.
Will we see even more diverse and inclusive interpretations? Will technology play a bigger role in how it's presented? Will it inspire like entirely new art forms?
Like we're standing on the edge of a whole new chapter in the Nutcracker saga.
Exactly. The possibilities are endless. But one thing's for sure, the story isn't over yet.
Yeah.
The Nutcracker will continue to surprise us, challenge us, and enchant us for many years to come.
I can't wait to see what the future holds. Well, I think we've done a pretty thorough deep dive into the world of the Nutcracker today.
We have.
We've covered a lot of ground, from its surprising origins to its enduring legacy.
We certainly have. It's been a fascinating journey.
And before we go, I want to encourage everyone listening to experience the Nutcracker for themselves.
Yeah.
Whether it's seeing a traditional ballet performance, checking out a modern adaptation, or simply listening to Tchaikovsky's magical music, there's a way for everyone to connect with this iconic work of art.
I wholeheartedly agree. And don't forget to keep those conversations going.
Right.
You know, art is meant to be discussed, debated, and reinterpreted. That's how it stays relevant and meaningful.
Well said. Until next time, happy listening, and may your holidays be filled with a little bit of Nutcracker magic.